platform for discussion and communication. So feel free to participate, to send questions in, and your thoughts as we continue to move forward. This is part 6 of the book, The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran, for us, of which the section we're going to read today is called Speak to Us of Houses. And it's very deep because it's more than just what you would picture. For even your very body houses your soul. That's just something for you to chew on, just for a little bit there. Just chew on that. Okay. Do you care to share anything in particular?
About houses?
No, just, I mean, so far I've spoken, and they haven't heard anything from you. So you might even want to say howdy. Well, maybe not howdy.
Howdy. Good morning, family. Good evening, family. Excuse me. I guess I'm a day ahead of myself. Or maybe okay. I'm behind.
Well, it's the first day of November, and I think all is acceptable. Is acceptable. That is within reason, of course.
So, yes. Good evening, family. We are honored and blessed for you all to be here. And we're doing a great deal of simulcasting right now. So if I don't quite look at the screen as I normally do.
Because she's busy. She's busy handling things. Yeah, we are working to develop what's required for us to project ourselves onto the global stage. So those who are observing what we are doing, feel free to even make comments as far as criticisms are concerned, because we learn from these things when we are in a place of receiving. Because there's two things of life that are very important. One is recognizing the allowing and recognizing resistance. Now, do you allow resistance? Well, we will get into that further at a different point in time. But we want to share with you that the other aspects of the book we had started a few weeks ago. So if you wish to follow the series of what this book speaks, the intro, we bring forth every maybe 2 or 3 sessions. So the last session we did, we actually reread the whole intro, and then we jumped into the section of the book. But to not belabor that point, we decided that we're going to go into this portion of the book, which is speak to us of houses. Now, there's some words here that I want to bring to your attention, which I knew I needed to deal with. One word was thistledown.
Thistledown.
Thistledown. Thank you. Thistledown. Yes, hi there. I see people. There's people over there. Thistledown, and I had no idea what it meant, but of the number of times in which I've read this book, I had to use the context of my thinking of what that could be. And thistledown, right?
Thistledown.
Yeah, thistledown is spoken of here as something to protect a fragile vessel. So my thoughts were, maybe it's something that is a pillow or something that's soft and cushiony.
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up discovering that thistledown is actually a wildflower or a plant, which, to give you an example, the dandelion. That's actually a derivative of thistledown. It's soft material from a plant, but there's actually a plant that is a little thicker and a little bushier, not quite like a cotton, but soft enough to where you can get enough of that to cushion a fragile device, such as a vase or whatever the case may be. Other word that we came across was bower, and it wasn't a person's name, which was interesting. But I meant to look the definition up so I could give you the right definition right here. But my recollection says that a bower is actually a place of which the grass or the greenery or vines grow in such a manner to where it protects a shelter or creates a shelter, creates a natural shelter. Like maybe you see a cave that's full of plants. Well, outside of that cave could be bushes and vines that kind of grew and created a space. You see that in what they call the thicket. You see a rabbit run into, or another wild animal run into a space to hide. That's a bower. Now, earlier we spoke of, oh, and another word I wanted to mention is the word ere. Here is E-R-E, and ere, E-R-E, actually means before. So some of the dialect here is a little archaic, but we are blessed to share. With that being said, I wanted to share with you, when you look and observe the reality of humankind in the planet of which we live with bricks and stones and cement. But this is a strange thing. Would it not have been logical for the one who created us, our manufacturer, to provide for us a dwelling place in which to live? So when I look at the word bower and understand that it is an area of plant growth which can be used as shelter, and then I observed that the power of the soul, which is something that I had talked about on my Blog Talk radio program, which is at 9 p.m. on Monday nights, the latent power of the soul. We have an ability within ourselves to talk to plants, but not only talk to plants, but have plants understand us and move as we would ask it to move. Thank you for that. I got a plant downstairs that I need to talk to. You know, the tree,
the ficus.
The ficus, yeah, the ficus is leaning to one side, and we bring it inside because it's not really a tropical plant, but our temperatures can get cold enough to where it can cause damage to it. And we want to show the plant love just as well as we show you love, and recognize that love is the greatest vibration of the planet. Do you have anything to share before we begin our reading?
No, I just, I think that for myself, I think that the comment really should come after we do the reading, because I really thought that it was interesting how he talks about how human beings live and congregate in cities, and his commentary on that. So I'll give more of my thoughts about that after we finish with the reading.
But what I'd like you to do also is let our audience know that we are doing a sunrise service. We've been doing a sunrise service for some time, and it's for the healing of the planet. We've observed that the COVID condition, the pandemic, along with the treacherous mindset of destruction to the rainforest, to California forestry, and the mentality of, yes, white supremacy and other acts of violence against humanity is something that needs to be addressed. So we have a vibratory energy that we can project into the unified field to shift the dynamic of the negativity that's going on. One of the things that came to me through meditation was the number of people who have died from COVID. It's astronomical. Yet, energy does not dissipate. It only recreates in another time and space. All things are spiritual. With this being said, energy we are, and to energy we shall return when we depart from this which returns to dust. Now, with that being said, we know that all things return back to source. Yet we also are aware that we are connected to those who have come before us. These are our ancestors. Those who have gone before us are also considered ancestors to a certain extent, of which we still have a connection. So those who have transitioned into the next life are not detached from us, but are no longer with us in physical form. We don't want to go deep into that, but we will be more than happy to have a conversation some other time. Those who have come before us. So with that being said, I'm going to read the book, The Prophet, page 31. And it reads as follows. Then a mason came forth and said, "Speak to us of houses." And he answered and said, see, I would have had Arlene read that part, but she's so busy over there. Build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness, ere you build a house within the city walls. Okay, the translation is, build of your imaginings, your thinking. You can create thoughts, create things. Okay, so you have to first have the thought, you have to first see the image, you have to create it in your mind. And it said, build of your imaginings, your imagery, your thinking, a bower, which is a place which you have the plant life create your shelter in the wilderness. So the plant life will create for you a shelter in the wilderness. The scripture tells us that when he spoke to man, he told man, he gave man a command to subdue the earth and have dominion over it and over all things of it. Okay, that's what's spoken of here. But here it says, build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness before you build a house within the city walls, which for me translates as allow your spirit self, your spirit man, to be connected to living and life in the energy vibration of what has already been given you of God, what you have already been commanded to perform before you go meddling with creating stone structures and bricks and what have you. I'll continue to read. Build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness, ere you build a house within the city walls. For even as you have homecomings in your twilight, so has the wanderer in you, the ever distant and alone. Your house is your larger body. It grows in the sun and sleeps in the stillness of the night, and it is not dreamless. Does not your house dream? And dreaming, leave the city for grove or hilltop? That's something to think about. Translation. For even as you have homecomings, which means when family goes in various places and comes together again, there's a joy that comes forth. In the later aspects of your living life and or at the end of day, the twilight, because back in these times, there was no more work done when it became dark because there was very little light. So you return home. So this is your homecoming. And homecomings also have gone to such an extent to where they speak of when a person transitions into the next life and they are going home to meet the Lord. So here it says, for even as you have homecomings in your twilight, everybody goes home back then. So has the wanderer in you, which means that spirit that's within you, that is the wanderer, that spirit that is the explorer, that spirit that seeks out the expanse. Even that goes to the ever distant and alone, such as when you go to sleep. Your mind wanders. You begin dreaming. You start to see imagery, and your body responds as though it is actually there in your thoughts, a place of which you are dreaming. So this is the wanderer in you that goes for the distant and alone, because that wanderer travels that to meet others. Okay. So it says, your house is your larger body, that which you live in. Blessings, Lauren. That which you live in, the home of which you currently are in, is an extension of you. Just as we spoke before, that your body houses your soul. So your soul is an extension of you that is reflected of the body that we see. So make your body beautiful without making it a farce. And you end up discovering that the blessing is your soul will be reflective of your personality and the character which you truly are. So it continues to say, it grows in the sun and sleeps in the stillness of the night. That is the larger body, your house. So the reading goes, your house is your larger body. It grows in the sun and sleeps in the stillness of the night. And it is not dreamless. Does not your house dream? And dreaming, leave the city for grove or hilltop? Would that I could gather your houses into my hand, and like a sower scatter them in forest and meadow. With the valleys were your streets, and the green paths your alleys, that you might seek one another through vineyards, and come with the fragrance of the earth in your garments. But these things are not yet to be. So I'm going to read that section again. Matter of fact, I'm going to read this whole page again. All right? Because I want you to kind of get the cadence, the resonance of it. But before I read the whole page again, I'm going to break down this little section here. It says, would that I could gather your houses in my hand, and like a sower scatter them in forest and meadow. Would the valleys were your streets, and the green paths your alleys, that you might seek one another through vineyards, and come with the fragrance of the earth in your garments. But these things are not yet to be. So here it is saying that if I could take that which is your larger self into my hand and scatter as would seed, scatter these houses, scatter this of which houses you in the forest and the meadow, then the valleys would be your streets, and the green paths your alleys, and you would seek one another in the vineyards where the grapes grow, and you would come with the fragrance of the earth in your garments. There's some of us who knows Gaia.
Gaia, Mother Earth.
Right. And if you resonate with that, you can embrace that power, because people call it the Mother Earth. And it says, don't fool Mother Nature. Okay. So I'm going to read this whole page again. You want to read that first section for me, as though like
yeah,
okay.
I can do that.
Thank
for
you so much. And I'll be the prophet.
So then a mason came forth and said, speak to us of houses. And he answered and said,
build of your imaginings a bower in the wilderness, ere you build a house within the city walls. For even as you have homecomings in your twilight, so has the wanderer in you, the ever distant and alone. Your house is your larger body. It grows in the sun and sleeps in the stillness of the night, and it is not dreamless. Does not your house dream? And dreaming, leave the city for grove or hilltop? Would that I could gather your houses into my hand, and like a sower, scatter them in the forest and meadow. Would the valleys were your streets, and the green paths your alleys, that you might seek one another through vineyards, and come with the fragrances of the earth in your garments. But these things are not yet to be. Reason being is because we have not yet evolved spiritually enough to make it happen. That's what that is. Spiritual evolution is key here. We are the continuation of creation. That's my sidebar. Arlene.
So when you read this section, what really comes to mind is not even houses, but you and the vibration that you are putting out in the world. So I find it interesting that King wants me to bring up the meditation and prayer that we do on Sundays. And it is for the healing of the world and in the enlightenment of humanity. And there are certain parts of the spiritual practices that are intent to amplified and magnify the energy of this healing. And one of the things that we do is do a spiritual aligning with source. We get into that heart, what I call a heart feeling prayer of what a healed world and enlightened humanity looks like and feel like. And I take people through a guided meditation in order to allow themselves to align with source. And then we literally scatter that or send that energy and that intention out into the out into the out throughout the country, through our body, and then throughout the country, and then throughout the world, and then totally encapsulating the world in this vibration of, oh my goodness. Just bring it down.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
No,
okay. All righty.
You see how distracting it is now.
Yeah.
Don't you? But continue. I'm not doing it because it's distracting to you.
Okay.
It's something I'm concerned of.
Okay. And so we are looking not only for ourselves, we are not only praying for ourselves, but in praying for humanity, it is necessary to expand that energy and that consciousness, and being in a place of understanding and knowing that as we continue to be a part of that, we coming together consistently. We've been doing this since the month of March, but consistently coming together and saying this prayer for humanity, that those seeds are being scattered.
So what time is that, and when is it, and how can they?
So currently, what I would recommend is for people to come to my Facebook page, called Healing Paradigms, and I will be posting the update there. But but right now, because it is close to sunrise, or during the hour of sunrise, I have currently set it for 7 o'clock. I mean, that's just so that I don't have to continue changing the time, because the days are getting shorter.
And that's Eastern Daylight Savings Time.
Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So if you go to Healing Paradigms, within the next 3 days, I will be posting it up for those who are interested in participating, in order for people to actually, bring the link. And if you are new, I will go through the process of what it is that we do during the meditation, because on average, it takes about 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. So please be prepared to share that time if you decide to join us. But it is sunrise around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and
on Sunday morning.
On Sunday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 a.m.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your
Okay. Okay.
input. Now we shall continue the reading of the book. I turned the page because the last line he said was, "But these things are not yet to be. In their fear, your forefathers gathered you too near together, and that fear shall endure a little longer. A little longer shall your city walls separate your hearths from your fields. And tell me, people of Orphalese, what have you in these houses? And what is it you guard with fastened doors? Have you peace, the quiet urge that reveals your power? Have you remembrances, the glimmering arches that span the summit of your mind? Have you beauty that leads the heart from things fashioned of wood and stone to holy mountains? Tell me, have you these in your houses? Or have you only comfort and the lust for comfort, that stealthy thing that enters the house a guest and then becomes a host and then a master? Mm, I like that. Aye, and it becomes a tamer, and with hook and scourge makes puppets of your larger desires. Though its hands are silken, its heart is of iron. It lulls you to sleep, only to stand by your bed and jeer at the dignity of the flesh. It makes mock of your sound senses and lays them in thistledown like fragile vessels. Verily, the lust for comfort murders the passion of the soul, and then walks grinning in the funeral. But you, children of space, you restless in rest, you shall not be trapped nor tamed. Your house shall be not an anchor, but a mast. It shall not be a glistening film that covers a wound, but an eyelid that guards the eye. You shall not fold your wings, that you may not pass through doors, nor bend your head, that they strike not against a ceiling, nor fear to breathe, lest walls should crack and fall down. You shall not dwell in tombs made by the dead for the living. And though of magnificence and splendor, your house shall not hold your secret, nor shelter your longing. For that which is boundless in you abides in the mansion of the sky, whose door is the morning mist, and whose windows are the songs of the silences of night. Dang, that make me want to read it all over again. But I'm hoping you kind of capture the vibration here of what's going on, because our mind being conditioned to accept what has been handed over to us as precious, has stolen from us the preciousness of what life has to offer. You see, we have come to a place of living guarded lives, protected by the houses of which we live, feeling that we are guarded from evil. We're guarded from darkness. We're guarded from the negativity of the world, when in actuality, the house is eating you alive. If you are not a child of the sky, because you will allow yourself to be consumed of the four walls in such a manner to where your freedom becomes limited. You allow the four walls to become your tomb, of which, and being a paramedic for several years, I've seen this with my own eyes. It's a place you die and you are found once your breath is gone. And no one knows your passions, your desires, the expanse of the creative force that is within you, because you've allowed it to be locked in, that dwelling place. So you've allowed resistance to shelter and bar you from the expanse of the creative elements of life and living, and that which God has granted and given you to share with others. So this can be a double-edged sword if not connected to the divine in you, and being aware that there is a unified field of vibratory energy that is connected to love, that is connected to passion, that is connected to your purpose. And your purpose, that which is the fruit of your labor, now get this, is not the fruit of which you are to eat, but is the fruit of which is to be shared to others. For a tree itself does not bear fruit for itself. Have you ever seen an apple tree eat its own apples?
I've seen the ground eat it.
Right, because to energy we come and to energy we return.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a flow, which is the allowing that is necessary, so that you should not put resistance to that which is the divine. For have you ever seen an apple tree in the city planted where there's cement and stone to fall on the ground and not be harvested, if you will? It's a total waste. We do have plants in the city that actually do bear fruit. And I've seen some Asians, kumquat, I can't remember the name of the plant, but I'm gonna tell you the street. There's a street called Arlington Avenue that's right off of Mulberry Street in Baltimore City. And there's a row of trees that's planted there that bear fruit. And I've seen Asians come to collect those fruit. And I went to search it out, and I understand that it's a very delectable fruit. It's sweet in flavor, and they use it in cooking and things of that sort. But because we don't know what it is. It just lays on the ground and just gets trampled by man and run over by cars and things of that sort. That can be descriptive of what's happening to us when we don't allow our spirit self to evolve and become more of what we have been designed for. A friend of mine years ago said that every vessel on the seas is created for a purpose. There is not a boat, ship that is made to figure out what it's supposed to do. So here in our reading, it spoke of the house. It says, but you children of space, you restless in rest, you shall not be trapped nor tamed. Your house shall not be an anchor, but a mast. For the mast is that which is on the sailboat that allows
the what is it,
the sail
to billow out so that
to
you can
capture
catch
the
a
wind, to of which you use the rudder to guide
steer
it to the places of your desire. That's what you should be doing with your spirit self. That's what you should be doing with your purpose.
It's interesting, this particular reading, because the thought that really comes to mind, and I had heard this in terms of spiritual text and revert in reference to houses. The house doesn't exist without you putting your attention to it. And when you see a house that has been dilapidated, that is not in use, nature will take it over. Just, trees will start growing through it, the sides of it, and that's because it is not in use. So a house is more than just a structure. A house is representative of thought. It is a manifestation of thought that was made physical. But again, when the focus is taken off of that, it falls apart. And your attention to it is required for it to be maintained.
Interesting that you said that, because when it spoke of the imaginings of power, I gave thought to that, because when we've seen movies where a city was abandoned, or we look into the future where the town was desolate and the earth itself pretty much consumed everything that was there. The buildings and everything, there's just plant life everywhere, grown over everything. And we see it as a destructive force on that which man had put there. But truth be told, that which man has put there was the destructive force in the first place. Because we are supposed to recognize the power within us to create through nature that which is to be sustainable for us, to be blessed with. People don't know this, but I think it's 6, if I'm not mistaken, there's a freeze zone of the ground, of which, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, only 6 inches deep does the freeze on the planet go into the earth. Yeah, I think it's only 6 inches. Because after that 6 inches, that crust area, there's a certain temperature that's regulated there. and it doesn't change. So no matter how cold it gets in our general area, there's a freeze line that people know of. And when you think of where water travels to your home from outside, there's a freeze line. Now, if it's 6 feet, well, maybe it's that. I'm not sure, because most water pipes are pretty low, pretty deep down into the ground. And there's no worry about whether there's going to be a problem with that water pipe for it to swell and rupture because of freezing. If anything, it ruptures because of old age, the infrastructure not being sustainable. So Earth takes over.
Yes, and I find that interesting because when you think about it, there are the animals that dig into the ground in order to hibernate to sleep throughout the winter.
Right. They're not going to freeze. They know better. They know exactly what to do and how to go about doing it to hibernate. And there's a whole process behind that, which is really phenomenal too. But we'll get into that some other point as well. But yeah, that's a very good point. They know.
Mhm.
They know. My organization is the Souls of Life Society, and one of our mottos is know the way, act the way, be the way, and cultivate. One of the reasons why that was utilized is because there is a story that is very, very old of a man who was amongst men, who was identified as the Son of God and the Son of Man. And this character had such a relationship with the vibration around him to where he could speak it and it would come to be. We have been given that ability, but we are not consciously aware of how to utilize that ability because we have been conditioned by old standards of thought. You see, the scripture, it is written, behold, I make all things new. Now, I share that because you would not know this without someone telling you this. But every cell that's in your body right now was not there last year. Every cell of your body, every cell. You see these teeth? You would think that they would probably be the same teeth I had last year. But even they have a process of renewal. When that process isn't there, then that's when you end up finding out that you need a root canal or the tooth died and all of that stuff. And check out with the dentist. The dentist will tell you if a tooth has died. How is a tooth going to die? Does that look like something that's going to die? Come on, really? But it's happened. One of the most amazing aspects of the biological process of man is the regeneration of the living cells of our body. What amazes me about that is if it was not for certain factors, man would have the ability to live forever because the cells constantly regenerate. something happened to bring that process to a slowing, and that slowing process is considered aging, but it doesn't have to be that way. But man, quote unquote, made it that way, if one may say. And that's another story altogether different.
Yeah, that's a totally different story.
I get that one, boy, we'd be here forever.
Oh my.
So I hope that you all enjoyed our reading. Where are we with our time? Now we're getting close to conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So, any comments? Anything you wish to share?
No, I think that I'm good because when just to say that when he's talking about houses, he's talking about more than just a house. If you even think of your body, the body itself is considered in some circles as a body temple, and so that's even really being spoken about in this particular reading. And understand that the house does not the house does not come into fruition, or a house is not manifest without you in it. It isn't. How often have we faced with the reality of a person transitioning, and all of a sudden the seeming emptiness of the individual that has transitioned so permeates the space because it wasn't the stuff in the house. It was the person themselves that made it so. It was their energy and presence that made it so.
Yeah. I'm reflecting on something that I've heard Les Brown speak on. He said that, imagine, if you will, the day of your death that comes, and all the dreams and all the hopes and all the aspirations and all the books that was inside of you circled your bed and looked at you with angry eyes and said, we could have lived if you opened yourself up to make us happen, but we now have to die with you. Another person says that one of the richest places on the earth is the cemetery. Because there's so many riches in the earth itself.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought it was interesting when it spoke to the people of Orphalese. And I like to read this section again. It says, and tell me, people of Orphalese, what have you in these houses? And what is it you guard with fastened doors? Have you peace, the quiet urge that reveals your power? Have you remembrances, the glimmering arches that span the summit of your mind? Have you beauty that leads the heart from things fashioned of wood and stone to holy mountain? Tell me, have you these in your houses? Or have you only comfort and the lust of comfort, that stealthy thing that enters the house a guest and then becomes a host and then a master? Aye, as it becomes a tamer, and with hook and scourge makes puppets of your larger desires. Though its hands are silken, its heart is of iron. It lulls you to sleep only to stand by your bed and jeer at the dignity of your flesh. It makes mock of your sound senses and lays them in thistledown like fragile vessels. Verily, the lust for comfort murders the passion of the soul and then walks grinning in the funeral. Verily is another word for truth be told. And so it is. Listen, people, I enjoyed this. I hope you all have as well. Thank you so very much for in your comments. Lauren Thompson had put forth a section of the book itself. She's a very wise lady. I love her. I've met her a couple of times in the past, but it's been a while. It says, build up your imaginings. And she says, imagination is truly a divine power tool. Thank you so much for such a powerful lesson. Bless you. Thank you for being a part of our experience as well. Continued love to you all. And as Arlene says, say that, Arlene, say that.
We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We give thanks for you. And we know that wherever you are, God is.
Ashe, namaste.